Hello everyone. I hope you have read the textbook by now and you are well acquainted with the lessons in your textbook. Today we are going to learn about the physiography and drainage system in Brazil and India. Physiography means different landforms that are prevailing in a particular country, and drainage system is the different rivers that are present in that particular country. Now physiography, we have the mountain ranges are there, hills are there, then the plains, the plateaus, and the coastal regions, the islands. These are the different land features, or the desert is also there. These different land features are included in physiography or the topography of that particular country. And in a drainage system, we have the rivers, which may be the seasonal rivers, which may be the perennial rivers, which flow throughout the year. Okay, the rivers may be sometimes they are frozen. Some may be having their origin on the plateau region or in the mountainous region, or some may be flowing through the desert region. So different types of rivers are there which are joining to different oceans or the water bodies. So we are going to study or learn about different rivers in Brazil as well as in India. And for that, we have taken some important questions from this lesson. And the first question that is given here that you can see on your screen, and that is, what are the dissimilarities? Not the similarities, dissimilarities between eastern and western coasts of India. As I have told you, mountains, then plateaus, plains, and the coastal region, coastal strips. These are the different landforms or physiographies in that country. India is blessed with two coastal strips or coastal region, that is the eastern coast and the western coast. So both the coastal strips, they are far away from each other. At the same time, they are different in nature from each other. When we consider the western coastal strip, we know that it lies between the Western Ghat and the Arabian Sea. Okay, and when we think about the eastern coastal strip, we know it lies between the Eastern Ghats and Bay of Bengal. So let's see the nature of both the coastal strip. Total length of these coastal strip, eastern and western coastal strip, is 7,500 meters. But the western coastal strip, which is between the Arabian Sea and the Western Ghat, it is a very narrow stretch of land. It is very narrow. Okay, and it is extended from north to south. In the north, it is from Gujarat, Ran of Kutch, till south, till Kerala. Okay, so that narrow strip on the eastern side, on the western side of India, is known as Western Coastal Strip. This Western Coastal Strip is uh, dissected by the different rivers which have their origin on the Western Ghats. These rivers are very short. After their origin, they are coming down with great velocity, and immediately they are joining Arabian Sea. As a result, due to their velocity, they have eroded the western coast at several places. And therefore, we find natural ports and estuaries they have developed on the western coast of India. At the same time, the uh, different hill ranges which have extended from the Western Ghat, they are running through the western coastal strip. And as a result, we find western coast is rocky in nature. Okay, the spurs, small hills, they are coming towards west, towards Arabian Sea, and therefore whole of the western coast has become rocky in nature. Estuaries are formed, natural ports are formed on the eastern coast. As the west flowing rivers have developed the natural ports, they have eroded this coastline at several places due to their great velocity. On the other hand, when we come to the eastern coast, we find that eastern coast is very extensive plain land. Okay, this eastern coast, it begins in the north from West Bengal, and it is extending towards south till Tamil Nadu. West Bengal, then Orissa is there, then we are having Andhra Pradesh, and then the Tamil Nadu state. So eastern coast is bordered by the Eastern Ghats, and on the east it is the Bay of Bengal. The rivers which have their origin on the peninsula, they have deposited huge amount of sediment on the eastern coastal stream. In the northeast, we are having river Ganga and Brahmaputra having their origin in Himalayas. They have deposited huge sediment near their mouth in West Bengal. As a result, we find the delta region that has developed near their mouth. Extensive delta, Sundarban region. And then in Orissa, we are having Mahanadi. Then on the peninsula, we are having three major peninsular rivers, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. These rivers also have developed deltas near their mouth. So whole of the eastern coast has become very extensive fertile plain with deltas at different places. Okay, and therefore this region has become suitable for agriculture, and we don't find any estuaries, or we don't even find the natural ports on the eastern coast. That is a difference between the western and the eastern coast. Western coast is narrow stretch of land, eastern coast is extensive plain land. Western coast is eroded by the rivers at several places. On the eastern coast, various rivers have deposited huge amount of sediment. On the western coast, we find natural ports and estuaries. On the eastern coast, we find the deltas, fertile deltas. Okay, so this is a difference between the eastern and the western coastal stream. I hope it is clear to you now. Now, let's proceed to the next part. It is, as compared to Amazon River, pollution in River Ganga will affect human life greatly. What is the reason behind that? Okay, when we see that the density of population is responsible for the pollution. Okay, Amazon River flows through the equatorial region in North Brazil, and River Ganga flows in the northern part of India through Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and West Bengal. Okay, now Amazon River, which is flowing through the equatorial region, there we find temperatures are high and rainfall occurs almost every day, and due to which we find dense equatorial rainforest throughout the Amazon River basin. Throughout the Amazon basin, dense equatorial forests are found. As a result, we find less development of human settlement. There is no development of industries, and also very less development of transport routes. Okay, so no agriculture, no industries, no transport route or very less transport routes, and less development of human settlement, which has resulted in less density of human population. As a result, the amount of pollution in river Amazon is very less. On the contrary, when we come to River Ganga is flowing through the North Indian plains, which is one of the densest region of the world. India is having second largest population density in the world, isn't it? And in India itself, we have North Indian plains, the most dense populated area, densely populated area. Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and West Bengal. On the banks of River Ganga, we find development of industries. Various industries are found on banks of River Ganga. At the same time, we find development of transport routes. Okay, development of agriculture, development of industries, development of transport routes, and dense human population which is residing on the banks of River Ganga since ancient time. As a result, we find that pollution in River Ganga is more. which is affecting the dense population residing on both the banks of river Ganga. Naturally, as compared to river Amazon, pollution in river Ganga will affect human life greatly. I hope now it is clear to you. So, let's proceed now to the next question, and it is the short note. Okay, now short note is on Himalayas. We have to write about Himalayas. Okay, now Himalaya is one of the physical features of the landforms in India. It is one of the loftiest mountain in the world. Okay, and it is located in the northern part of India. Himalayas is known as one of the young fold mountains. Now both the words are having importance. Young. Why they are known as the young mountain? Because they have been formed after the formation of the continents. Okay. First, those 5 continents were formed and then there was formation of Himalayas. Gondwana land and Laurasia was present in the beginning, and when the continental drift process began, Gondwana land started drifting towards north and Laurasia, or we can say Asia, started drifting towards south. In between these two landforms, we had in the ancient times Sea of Tethys. The sediments which were there on the ocean floor of Sea of Tethys, they got folded because of the compression from Laurasia and Gondwana land, and then there was the rise of Himalayas, the loftiest mountain in the world. So, Himalayas are formed after Gondwana or Laurasian continent. As a result, it is known as young landform. And why fold? Because the sediments on the Sea of Tethys, they got folded and then the mountains were formed, and therefore they are known as the fold mountain in the world. Okay. Now the extension. They extend from the Pamir Knot in the north west to Arunachal Pradesh in the east. Okay. Pamir is the region, plateau region near Kazakhstan or Afghanistan. Okay, to the north of Afghanistan, we are having a small country, Kazakhstan, and there we are having the plateau and several mountain ranges. They begin or they extend towards east from this Pamir plateau. So, in the northwest Pamir, from there the ranges are going extending towards east till Arunachal Pradesh in India, till Lushai Hills. Okay. Now, these mountain ranges, they are the major mountain ranges in the continent of Asia. In India, Himalayas, they extend from Jammu Kashmir to Himachal Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, sorry, and to the south of Arunachal Pradesh, then we are having Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, these states. Purvanchal region lies in those states. Okay. Himalayas are having many parallel ranges. The southernmost range and the smallest range of Himalayas to the south is the Shivalik range. To the north of Shivalik ranges, we are having lesser or middle Himalayas, and to the north of middle or lesser Himalayas, we are having the greater Himalayas. Greater Himalayas is the most loftiest and the largest range of Himalayas. The southernmost is Shivalik, middle one is the lesser Himalayas, and northernmost is the greater Himalayas. To the north of greater Himalayas, we are having still 3 more ranges. They are known as Trans-Himalayan ranges. Beyond the greater Himalayas, 3 ranges, they are known as Trans-Himalayan ranges. And the names of these ranges are Zaskar range. To the north of Zaskar, we are having Ladakh range. And to the north of Ladakh range, we are having the Karakoram range. And K2, that is the highest peak in India, it lies in that Karakoram range. Okay, highest peak. So, Shivalik range, lesser Himalayas, greater Himalayas. To the north of greater Himalayas, we are having Zaskar range. To the north of Zaskar, Ladakh range. And the northernmost range of Trans-Himalayas is the Karakoram range. These are the divisions of Himalayas from south to north. There are again 4 divisions of Himalayas from west to east. The part of Himalayas which lies in Jammu and Kashmir, it is known as Western Himalayas or Kashmir Himalayas. Okay, and all the ranges are there. Shivalik is there, Lesser Himalayas, Greater Ladakh and Zanskar, all ranges are there. The part of them which lie in Jammu Kashmir state, it is known as Western Himalayas or Kashmir Himalayas. Now middle part of Himalayas towards east is known as Kumaon Himalaya. This Kumaon Himalaya lies in Garhwal district of India, then Nepal and Bhutan countries. Okay, so that is the middle portion of Himalayas which is known as Kumaon or middle Himalayas. As we go towards east, towards Arunachal Pradesh, it is known as Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, it is known as Eastern Himalayas. Okay, and to the south of Eastern Himalayas, when we go to Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, some small ranges, they are extending there. They are known as the Purvanchal ranges. Garo, Khasi, Jantia, Naga, Patkoi, Lushai. These are the names of the ranges in the Purvanchal region. Okay, so these are the divisions of Himalayas. Okay, now these ranges of Himalayas are very much important for the climate in India. Okay, Himalayas, they obstruct the cold winds which are coming from North Pole, and they obstruct these cold winds to enter in India. As a result, overall climatic conditions in the Indian subcontinent is warm because India is protected from the chill winds coming from North Pole. At the same time, there is another importance of Himalayas, and that is the southwest monsoon winds which are coming from Arabian Sea, they are obstructed by the Himalayas. Then they take the U-turn, and the retreating monsoon winds, they go towards the Indian Ocean. So whatever the rainfall is received for the 4 months June to September in India, it is because the winds are obstructed by the Himalayan ranges, and therefore general climatic conditions in India are monsoon type of climatic conditions. It is because of the presence of Himalayas in the northern side of Himalayas. So that is the importance of Himalayas. So the short note on Himalayas I have told you. So let's proceed to the next one. It is the Great Escarpment. Great Escarpment is a small mountain range in Brazil. Great Escarpment lies on the eastern coast of Brazil. Okay, when we compare it with Himalayas, actually Guiana Highlands. Okay, Guiana Highlands can be compared with Himalayas as both they lie in the northern side of the country, Guiana, northern part of Brazil, and Himalayas, northern part of India. And Pico de Neblina, that is the highest peak of Brazil, which lies in Guiana Highland, and K2 range lies in the Trans-Himalayan Karakoram range. Okay, that much is the similarity. But when we consider this Great Escarpment, we have to compare it with the Western Ghats of India. Okay, Western Ghats lies on the western coast of India from north to south. Great Escarpment lies on the eastern coast of Brazil from north to south. Okay, and height of Great Escarpment is much less than the Western Ghat. It is only 790 meters. Okay, as compared to 3000 or 5000 meters peaks in the Western Ghats. Okay, these Great Escarpment, they extend in the south from Sao Paulo state to the north Porto Alegre. Okay, that is the extension of Great Escarpment, and they demark the eastern side of the Brazilian highland. That means they are the edge or the border of the eastern border of the Brazilian highlands. Now, what is the importance of great escarpment? Actually, great escarpment, they obstruct the winds coming from the South Atlantic Ocean. And these winds are the trade winds. Southeast trade winds coming from South Atlantic Ocean, they are obstructed by great escarpment. As a result, there is heavy rainfall on the eastern coast of Brazil. But when these winds cross the Great Escarpment and reach on the western part of Great Escarpment and enter in Brazilian highland, temperature increase and moisture laden capacity of these winds also increases. As a result, these winds, they give very less rainfall on Brazilian highland, northeastern side of Brazilian highland. This region is the rain shadow region, and therefore it becomes the dry and drought prone region. It is known as drought quadrilateral. That means Great Escarpment is responsible for heavy rainfall on the eastern coast of Brazil, and it is also responsible for the development of drought quadrilateral on the Brazilian highlands. Okay, so that is the importance of Great Escarpment. Okay, so here we have completed the important notes of the lesson physiography and drainage system. There is a suggestion for you. I want you to read the lesson very carefully. All the questions, try to solve them properly and try to understand the lesson properly. If you understand this lesson very clearly, then the rest of the lessons will be very easy for you. Okay, so go through the lesson, read it carefully and try to understand each and every phenomena that is given in the lesson. Okay, all the best. Thank you.